Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Judges, the 18th chapter. And as we went through in the 17th chapter, right, we saw the story of Micah, who basically made up these idols in his house and ended up inviting a Levite to come be his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in. For unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Israel. So they were looking for more land, because the portions that were allocated to them, they hadn't completely taken over and driven out the heathen from those areas. So they were still lacking. So they went to search for a place. And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coasts, men of valor, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to search it. So they sent these 5 men to go seek out within the coast of Israel, where they can find a good suitable land that they can go and take over. And they said unto them, Go, search the land. Who, when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they lodged there. So in their journey, in going through to search, they came by Micah's house in Ephraim, and they spent the night over there. So we're starting again the sense that Micah wasn't just like, he was likely rich, or well-known man, at this point in time. When they were by the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man, the Levite, and they turned in thither, and said unto him, Who brought thee hither? And what makest thou in this place? And what hast thou here? So it would seem they recognized him, and they're like, what brings you here? Like, what are you doing all the way over here? What business do you have all the way up in here in Mount Ephraim? In the NLT, it says, while at Micah's house, they recognized the young Levite's accent. So they went over and asked him, Who brought you here? And what are you doing in this place? Why are you here? So they knew that he wasn't native to that land. He wasn't from Ephraim originally. And he said unto them, Thus and thus dealeth Micah with me, and hath hired me, and I am his priest. And they said unto him, Ask counsel, we pray thee, of God, that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous. So while we're here, and you're already set up as his priest, why don't you inquire for us and let us know, if the journey we're taking was going to be successful or not. And the priest said unto them, Go in peace. Before the Lord is your way wherein ye go. Meaning the path in your journey is before the Lord. He's watching over it, so you're going to be all right. Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless, meaning they lived like a carefree life, after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure, because they were safe, unbothered. They lived that carefree life over there. And there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything, i.e., they didn't have any like king or ruler over them, that would oppress them when it says shame there, to trouble them in any form. So it was like a free land, for those that were dwelling there. And they were far from the Zidonians, and had no business with any man. So I pulled up here. I was able to find a relatively decent map on this. So you had the original territory of Dan over here, and then this is Micah's house over here. So in their journeying, right, they come up through here, they lodge at Micah's house, and they continue to make their way all the way up here. And here they notice that the people, which originally was Laish, were far from the Zidonians, and as it said, they had no business with any man. What that means is they didn't have any alliances or ties to any neighbors that are around. So they were a perfect target for Dan. And they came unto their brethren to Zorah and Eshtaol, meaning the five men that were sent, returned, and they returned with this news. And their brethren said unto them, What say ye? So, what did you see? What's the verdict? And they said, Arise, that we may go up against them. For we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And are ye still? Be not slothful to go, and to enter to possess the land. So they came back with the urgency. They say, this land is perfect for us. Don't waste any time. Let's go. Let's go. Gather your stuff. Get us. We out of here. Let's go in there and take it over. When ye go, ye shall come unto a people secure, and to a large land. So they were describing what they saw, meaning when we get there, this is what to expect. All right. So you have people that are secure, they're safe, they're carefree, dwelling over there, and to a large land. Right. The land is huge. For God hath given it into your hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. Meaning this land is not lacking in anything. It's perfect. The soil is rich. It's just great. And there went from thence of the family of the Danites out of Zorah and out of Eshtaol 600 men appointed with weapons of war. And they went up and pitched in Kirjath Jearim in Judah, wherefore they called that place Mahanedan until this day. Behold, it is behind Kirjath Jearim. So that when it says they pitched, that's where they went out and they encamped there that day. And they passed thence on to Mount Ephraim and came on to the house of Micah. Now those 5 original spies were with them, right? So on their journey upward, they stopped once again at the house of Micah. Then answered the 5 men that went to spy out the country of Laish. So the 5 men basically began to speak to the people, right, to explain to them, and said unto their brethren, Do ye know that there is in these houses an ephod, and teraphim, and a graven image, and a molten image? Now therefore consider what ye have to do. So they started basically speaking into the ears of the people, like, yo, we already here, and last time we came here, this guy got some good stuff. They got a ephod, a teraphim, idols. We might need to do something about that. And they turned thitherward, and came to the house of the young man the Levite, even unto the house of Micah, and saluted him. And the 600 men appointed with their weapons of war, which were of the children of Dan, stood by the entering of the gate. So they waited at the entrance. And the 5 men that went to spy out the land went up, and came in hither, and took the graven image, and the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. And the priest stood in the entering of the gate with the 600 men that were appointed with weapons of war. So while the priest was at the entrance with them, these 5 men likely snuck off and went and took these the images and so on. And these went into Micah's house and fetched the carved image and ephod and the teraphim and the molten image. Then said the priest unto them, What do ye? So what are you doing? And they said unto him, Shh, hold thy peace, which means to be quiet. Lay thy hand upon thy mouth, and go with us, and be to us a father and a priest. So be quiet and just come with us. And if anything, instead of serving this guy, you come in and be a priest unto us. Is it better for thee to be a priest unto the house of one man, or that thou be a priest unto a tribe and a family in Israel? So they basically said, look, you could be frying bigger fish right now. You dealing with just one man. How about a whole tribe? And the priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and the teraphim and the graven image, and went in the midst of the people. So they turned and departed, and put the little ones and the cattle and the carriage before them, i.e. the children and so on that they were traveling with. And when they were a good way from the house of Micah, the men that were in the houses near to Micah's house, so the neighborhood, you could say, were gathered together and overtook the children of Dan. So they started to pursue after the Danites that had just left. And they cried unto the children of Dan, and they turned their faces and said unto Micah. So they basically, like, they're chasing them, shouting at them. And so the Danites turn and they see Micah leading this pack. And so they turn to him and say, What aileth thee? What's your problem? What's the matter? That thou comest with such a company. So what's the matter with you that you coming after us with this whole large mob? And he said, Ye have taken away my gods which I made, the priest, and ye are gone away. And what have I more? And what is this that ye say unto me, What aileth thee? So in other words, you come into my house, you rob all my stuff, and you've taken my priest. What do you mean? What kind of question is it talking about? Well, what's my problem? And the children of Dan said unto him, Hey, let not thy voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows run upon thee, and thou lose thy life with the lives of thy household. So basically, you gotta calm down there, man. Don't get crazy out here, before something happens to you. And the NLT, it says, the men of Dan said, Watch what you say. There's some short-tempered men around here who might get angry and kill you and your family. Which sounds like something Jake would say anyway. So they threatened him a bit, and the children of Dan went their way. And when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back into his house. So, he's looking at the situation. He's like, man, those that he has versus these Danites and their men look like they're real trained. You know what? It's not worth it. So he let them go and he went back home. And they took the things which Micah had and the priest which he had and came to Laish unto a people that were at quiet and secure. So these people were basically at peace with their guards down. And they smote them with the edge of the sword and burnt the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Zidon, and they had no business with any man. So they couldn't call out for help from anyone, because one, they didn't really have any allies. They were kind of secluded, you could say. And so the Danites were able to take advantage of that, and as it says, take them out. And it was in the valley that lieth by Beth Rehob. And they built a city and dwelt therein. And they called the name of the city Dan. So looking here, they started down here, made their way all the way up to the house of Micah, which is in Ephraim, and then continued all the way up to Laish, where they ended up turning it into the city of Dan. So as it says, and they called the name of the city Dan after the name of their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laish at the first. So it was originally called Laish, but it got changed to Dan. So that's why if you ever look at a map and you see multiple Dans, you know that there's a city of Dan up north by Naphtali, and that's because of this event we just read here. And then there's the actual territory of Dan, which is between Judah and Ephraim. And the children of Dan set up the graven image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. Now, it doesn't specify what captivity this is referring to here. It could be referring to that of the northern kingdom being taken captive by the Assyrians. That's number one. Number two, when you look this up, there's some translations that have this here as Moses rather than Manasseh because of the lineage, right? As we know, Gershom was the son of Moses, but some sources say that the scribes purposely put Manasseh instead of Moses because, given the context of this verse with what Jonathan was doing, he's basically being a priest of idols, and they didn't want to, associate Moses' name in there. That's what some sources say. But, if If you're interested, you can look further into it. Though, as you'll see in the NLT, for example, and I think even in the yep, in the NKJV, they say the Septuagint and Vulgate read Moses. The NLT also reads Moses. The NIV reads Moses. The ESV reads Moses. Damn. CSB Moses. Because when you look at the genealogies, you'll see that I think in the book of Chronicles, yes, you do have Moses. His son was Gershom. In Chronicles, it lists his Gershom's son by a different name. That's not Jonathan here, but there's some different explanations for that if you look into it. Although when you look at Manasseh, right, this lineage doesn't follow that of the son of Israel, Manasseh, right? And I doubt you can find a lineage in the scriptures that go from Manasseh to Gershom to Jonathan. So chances are this is indeed, might have been talking about Moses here, considering that his grandson, if indeed this is the lineage, would have still been alive, which makes this feasible, since Aaron's grandson was also alive at this time as well. In any case, not to get caught up on this verse here, but just wanted to mention that. So Dan goes and sets up this new city. They set up their idols. They get some priests, and basically this is what they're doing over there. Verse 31. And they set them up Micah's graven image, which he made all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. So all basically the entire time, as we read even into the book of Samuel, where you had the tabernacle of the Lord set up over there in Shiloh, this is what they had going on over there in their land. And that brings us to the end of the book of Judges, the 18th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Until next time, Shalom.